Matt Prosser, Chief Executive at Dorset Council and SOLACE Lead for Digital. Over to you, Matt.
Mayen, thank you very much for that introduction, and good afternoon. It's great to be here and joining in with the celebration of the Digital Declaration. It feels like a lifetime ago. I was sat in Camden Council's offices with Paul Maltby and Siobhan Coughlin and other colleagues discussing the final draft of the declaration and working out how we get this promoted and signed, and yet here we are just 2 years on with 220 signatories to it. And that was following Rishi Sunak's launch of the declaration at the then LGA conference, a physical conference. One of the things we've missed, I suppose, in the last 4 months. I wonder if its trajectory has moved as fast as the political career of the now Chancellor. Who knows? Perhaps we'll know at the end of this conference. For those who don't know me, I've got the privilege of being the national spokesperson for SOLACE on digital leadership. More about people than about tech, I always say. So go easy on the tech questions as a chief executive. But also in my day job, I am chief executive of one of the newest unitary councils in the country, having led the process to create the new Dorset Council that was created on the 1st of April 2019 with digital aspirations at its heart. Leadership in a digital age is really, really important to me, as I'm sure you both. And hearing that culture conversation today with Kat and Paul has been really excellent, because for me, as much as the declaration was about how we fix the plumbing and the infrastructure, it also needed to influence leaders to act and behave differently. And before I start, I therefore just want to publicly acknowledge the great work of my colleagues in the council and also our partners in the voluntary community sector in Dorset, who've stood up digital solutions throughout the COVID-19 pandemic and that lockdown period. The innovation has been truly outstanding. Next slide, please. So for us, embedding that digital declaration is about designing services around the needs of people using them. We signed the declaration as a shadow Dorset Council, and it enabled us to embed that ambition for digital in the real thing. We wanted to enable the able. We knew from research that we've got lots of people with digital skills in our communities, but for whatever reason, didn't want to access council services digitally. So we actually wanted to make sure we enable those people actually already using online skills first. And our core values, including designing around the needs of the users, really, really important. Not just a strategy of if you build it, they will come, but if you build it with the needs of the user, they will access it and get the very best benefits. And our people strategy highlighted the importance of digital skills. My senior team were recruited against digital skill sets for a 21st century organisation. Why, as I say to many of my colleague chief executives, why would I want to employ people in a 21st century organisation without 21st century skills and behaviours? But we also support our existing colleagues and staff members and councillors to gain new digital skills. And I'll speak a little bit about that later on. We set the councillors off at the start with a paperless approach. We were very clear when new councillors were standing for the elections of the new council that there would be a paperless approach, that they would be given the very best technology and helped to use that. We've got an executive advisory panel, that's a bit like a start and finish group, I guess, set up for digital and ICT, and it's chaired by the deputy leader, giving it high profile political leadership, which is really, really important. For me, the privilege of creating a new organisation was a chance to think about the structure, and therefore being able to create dedicated capacity for digital that includes service and content design roles. And I've separated digital and change from operational IT, so there's real clarity in the organisation. We've been adopting the Gov Digital Services Standards and a design-led approach to solving the right problems based on our user research and data. And we've also benefited from the free GDS training that's been available for user research and Agile. Really, really helpful. And as I said at the introduction, we've been able to design and stand up some solutions really quickly, particularly during this pandemic. It's removed for us one of those cultural pieces of baggage that says, can we do that? We absolutely can, and we know we can as an organisation. We can move at pace now. So we produce great website content and structure to get COVID messaging out quickly. We set up a digital skills agency. This was for colleagues whose work had been paused because of the COVID pandemic. So work in libraries, leisure centres, country parks, registration services. And we created a virtual network of these people and said, what are the skills you've got, not only in the jobs now, but from outside of the council jobs that you do. And then we put them together in a skills matching across the organisation, so that they could support our work around Community Shield or working physical work to reopen our household recycling centres when that came to it. A really great innovation and something we're going to protect and keep going as a rapid reaction force to solving problems. We created new models for our library click and collect service, business grants, 108 million distributed with a purely online approach. We're a little bit slower out the blocks than some colleague councils, but caught up because we had a purely digital process, so we're not double entering data. and also creating apps such as our EHCP, our Education and Healthcare Plan Process Checker, so that parents, when they submit for their EHCP, get a chance to actually track it on the app to see that they've submitted the right evidence, where it is in the process, and when the outcome's going to come out. Instead of what we had in the past was people phoning up every week to say, where's my EHCP? And that taking a member of staff off the process to actually answer the calls. So actually making a better outcome for our residents. Fixing the plumbing, we're looking at how we've moved to a component-based approach and have started the journey to using Notify and Pay. Small steps, but really great example. Notify is how you can quickly and easily use it to make instant savings. Small numbers there, £54,000, but actually some great ambition to use that. Moving on, for sharing information to support the vulnerable and target resources. We've got the Dorset Care Record is really making a difference to safeguarding vulnerable patients, and it says the usage has risen in June. Basically, the Dorset Intelligence and Insight Service is creating those Dorset Care Records, a partnership between the Council, the Clinical Commissioning Group in Dorset, our hospitals and the South West Ambulance Trust, to coordinate better care, to give clearer and better decisions about care, to fulfil the tell us once mantra between all of those agencies, make sure we've got absolutely accurate records and basically give you as an individual a better understanding of your position in your care pathways. And then Community Shield is something really important, where we use the data that we got through COVID-19 to combine both our shielded lists and our community care lists and actually support the vulnerable throughout this process. We were able to make sure that we kept inclusion at the heart of that. We repurposed just under 300 laptops from the council and giving those to our children in the looked after care system who were most vulnerable and needed access during that time. And then we built on that with the access to the government laptops, using that data to ensure no one fell between the gaps between the Gov list and our local list. So moving on to an open culture and expecting digital ways of working. As I said, we recruit against digital skills and behaviours, and not just our new web manager, Neil Lawrence, who I know is listening, coming to us in October, but everybody coming across actually having to understand a little bit about their digital skills and behaviours as they join the organisation. Our behaviours are aimed at establishing a culture where digital can thrive. Our peer challenge last year focused on our digital workforce and transformation. As the slide says, we're working with Barnsley on local digital fund and income projection. We've got a robotics in care community of interest group, which are exploring the potential for us to support our residents with better technology. And we've got over 2,500 colleagues working from home using MS Teams to connect and collaborate. Many of those teams never having met each other and actually working incredibly effectively in that environment. And as Chief Executive, I've really benefited being able to dip in and out of all of the Teams groups to say hi, to thank people, to read the fantastic stories of the work that has been happening. And those leadership stories really important. We've set up Skype rooms to help the family, support the family court process so that people can still continue to get the right kind of outcomes, even though the courts were shut down. We're obviously using MS Teams, as well as everybody said, for webinars, for all of our virtual meetings for members, staff webinars, increasing connectivity and that feeling of inclusion, particularly for frontline staff who can't normally take time out during the day to join in with a staff briefing. Actually, they can watch it online afterwards and still post up questions that we can answer in our FAQ section. We encourage experimentation. And currently we're leading a government-backed £6.7 million project to help shape the future of 5G services in the rural areas. We've got a national profile to this work alongside household names, including Vodafone, Microsoft, and the RNLI. We're demonstrating how that new technology can enable business growth and new public service delivery models through pilots, not limited to agri-tech and aquaculture, which are really important on the coastline, but also how to increase visitors to sensitive coastal areas and also giving connected care to homes and to ambulances. Finally, a couple of last slides demonstrating that digital leadership and creating the right conditions. We've got 75 digital champions in the community. These are people who perhaps just retired, got great digital skills and just want to share that evangelically across our communities. And we've got 175 in the workplace. They're not just work colleagues, they're also elected members as well, supporting that growth within the elected members of councils. Really important. We're raising awareness of digital across Dorset through our networks and our podcasts, which are really great. And as I said, we provided laptops for vulnerable or disadvantaged children, really important at this time. And final slide from me is about Dorset's digital future. There's a lot to take in on this slide, and we started this by talking to our workforce, our residents and our businesses to develop our future together last year. And then more recently, last week, we held a digital conference in a virtual environment. Fascinating use of technology. It's the first time I've ever been at a virtual conference where somebody had the ability to drag someone off their table onto somebody else's. I was really fearful that somebody was going to pull me away in a virtual chair and stick me on another table, but it didn't happen. We were all far too polite still. So thanks for listening. We believe that digital is vital in Dorset, and the digital declaration has really helped us to accelerate that journey for us and for our residents, communities, businesses, staff and members together. Thanks very much, Mayan. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Matt. And it's so encouraging to see, especially at chief executive level, kind of support and approach that you've taken. First question from you, surprisingly from Neil Lawrence. How do we retain a focus on digital inclusion while moving forward?
Well, yeah, Neil, you'll get a chance to be a part of that, obviously, when you join us in October. So, the thing for me is actually remembering that whilst we focused on enabling the able to make sure that we've got the time to spend with those who are currently excluded. So we're then working with those groups in that margins between those who could become digitally included and giving them support. So we've got schemes to make sure that the physical infrastructure is better. So actually supporting increased takeover of broadband within the rural area. Making sure, as I say, with the digital champions, that they're actually supporting people. So once you've got your tech connected, how do you actually deal with it? And particularly for us in Dorset, we've got a slightly older population. So we're supporting that slightly older population who may be first-time users. But I have to say, there's nothing like, it wouldn't wish it on anybody, but a global pandemic to accelerate that use of digital technology.
Thank you. And the next question for you is, when you decided to roll out the digital and technology roles, how did you go about doing this? Did you upskill your workforce, and how did you do that?
Okay, so we've been upskilling the workforce prior to the new councils being created and during, so using both tried and trusted technology and training methodology, but also using buddying systems. Really, really important to make sure that people have got the ability to just pair up with somebody else across the organisation. And there's no stupid question, just being able to ask that. And particularly during lockdown, the Teams groups and the Teams chat sites have been really, really important that we replicate in the virtual environment what we see in the real world. So encouraging teams just to have coffee and catch-ups, just to talk about stuff and in a conversation about how did you do that in Teams, or how did you do that in this piece of application. So really important that we just encourage people to continue to talk. So training informally as important as formally.
And this is another question for you. So people are loving the yes we can attitude. Do you think to achieve this, do you need to create a culture where seniors ask for outcomes, not solutions? And how did you do that?
I certainly agree that it's about asking for outcomes and not just directly solutions. It's about people sharing in that solution. So I have done that. Well, as I said to you, one of the privileges of setting up a new council is you get to select your new leadership team. And as part of that process, really important that the design process was based around the kind of skills that we needed for the new organisation, not just the technical skills and the behaviours, but also the kind of cultural leadership that they were going to bring to the organisation. So I'm really grateful that I've got a fantastic senior leadership team who live the behaviours across the organisation.
Thank you. And next question: do you encourage your workforce to work in the open, and how do you do that?
I noticed that in the opens in inverted commas, so it depends what the classification is in the open, but yeah, absolutely, really do encourage there to be a sense of openness and people just sharing and looking for outcomes. This is not about waiting to the end of the line to look at the final product or the outcome. Actually encouraging people to share things at the start, because if you work in a business process with quality assurance, you don't want to check something when it falls off the end of the production line and see that actually it's not quite right. You want to be checking it all the way along. And that was a really important feature that our leader actually put forward at our peer review last year. We had a peer review within 6 months of being created as a council, and somebody said that's really early, and then he said no, it's not really early, it's really important, because actually we want to check that actually our journey is going in the right place. So I'm more than happy to encourage my workforce to work in the open and share as much as they can.
Thank you. Questions are coming thick and fast. How are you helping? How are you helping other chief execs to get digital and really get on board with this stuff?
So really important, obviously, my role in SOLACE, that's the Society of Local Authority Chief Executive and Senior Managers. Really important that we are continuing to help those chief executives in that who don't have the digital skills and knowledge to feel confident that they can. You don't need lots of knowledge to do it. You can surround yourself with great people. That's what I'm doing. Well done, Neil. Thanks for coming again. Another plug. It's about bringing the right people in and creating the right environment. If you, as I said in my opening introduction, push under the surface, and yeah, I know a bit about tech, I know a little bit about stuff, but I surround myself with great people who can really drive that forwards. But helping other chief executives is just creating those opportunities for them to ask those questions. And I sit on several chief exec boards where I'm the kind of the digital sort of lead person to help them to access the right training or to find a mentor. I've got one of my colleague chief execs here has got a reverse mentoring, so he's got a young guy in the workforce, got really good tech skills, social media skills, and is helping this chief executive to reinvent himself in the 21st century.
Fantastic. And next question, what is something you think Dorset could do better in the future?
Wow. What is something you think Dorset could do? There's so much. We're a brand new authority. We inherited 6 predecessor councils, and we've got so much to do in terms of improving the performance across the organisation. But for me, what could we do better in the future is just continue our cultural journey of learning and being an open organisation and wanting to do the very best by our residents, communities, and businesses.
Thank you. And do you have any top tips for other leaders about how to lead well in the digital age?
Yeah, always be open to learning and be prepared to say, I don't know what that is. And can you tell me a little bit more about it? As chief executive, I certainly have not got all of the ideas and all of the answers. And I very much want to encourage people around me to feel open to be able to bring challenge, to be able to bring comment, and to be able to bring new ideas and solutions into the workplace. And that's something I definitely encourage.
Thank you. And last question, by introducing those different DDAT roles, did it involve a restructure, and how did you manage the people change?
So yes, it did involve a restructure, but it was a restructure as part of the process of creating the 2 new councils, as I said, and it was some honest conversations and some really honest conversations, particularly with some experienced individuals who we sat down and said, like the idea, like what you're seeking to do, but I don't think I've got the skills to do that. And I was really grateful for some honest conversations, which meant actually there was an opportunity for me to appoint one post internally, which was our head of ICT. And one person externally, which was our new corporate director for digital and change, and that's given us a perfect environment where you've got some great skills steeped in the knowledge of the predecessor organisations and all the technical issues, and you've got some new skills and ideas coming in, and they've meshed really well together.
Thank you so much, Matt. That's the last question for you.